You're just in time for NTV Tonight. Here's what's coming up. Police to start making arrests related to new NYS scam in 36 hours as probe into allegations gains momentum.
After this!
Matatu operators in Kawangware protest alleged release of police officer who killed Matatu tout while drunk. Seven police officers have their firearms withdrawn after shooting incident left an armed woman dead and male companion critically injured.
We have said that all the three regional managers are all hereby suspended until full investigations are conducted.
NCPB Managing Director resigns, managers suspended as government seeks to uproot graft at the board.
NTV Tonight with Trevor Ombija.
Thanks for tuning in. David Agondoa is handling all the sign language interpretation tonight. Let's start with the latest from the NYS scandal. And officers face arrest in 36 hours for the alleged theft of public money. That is coming up in just a bit. But for now, the NYS officers face arrest in 36 hours for the alleged theft of public money. During that time, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations will have completed initial investigations, after which arrests will begin. About 20 NYS officers recorded statements on Monday, with 20 more expected on Tuesday, that is tomorrow, in relation to this scam. We'll be giving you the details in just a bit. But away from that, Matatu operators from Kawangware and Waithaka today blocked the Dagoretti-Kikuyu Road and lit bonfires to protest the alleged release of an administration police officer who reportedly shot a Matatu conductor on Sunday while drunk. Police had to lob tear gas to dismiss the Matatu operators, who say they will not relent until the officer is held to account. NTV's Olive Barrows with the details.
Confrontation between administration police officers and protesters at the Waithaka DO's camp. The protesters, Matatu operators drawn from Kawangware and Waithaka, demonstrating against the killing of a tout by a police officer on Sunday in Dagoretti constituency. Police lobbed tear gas and shot in the air to disperse the charging crowd. Transport along the Kawangware-Waithaka route was paralyzed as the operators grounded their vehicles and demanded that action be taken against the officer. The protesters lit bonfires and barricaded the Dagoretti-Kikuyu Road. Area MP John Kiaria, who joined the protesters, condemned the killing. According to witnesses, David Kariuki, a tout plying the Dagoretti-Kikuyu route, was shot by the officer early on Sunday morning at the Waithaka shopping center in unclear circumstances. The administration police officer who pulled the trigger 3 times is based at the Waithaka AP's camp and was allegedly drunk when he committed the brutal crime. The police officer, referred to as Pius Mabea, was apprehended and taken to Kabete police station, but protesters claim that he was later released without being booked and charged in court. Dagoretti Sub-County Deputy Commissioner Stephen Kehara, who had a hard time controlling the crowd, promised the demonstrators that the issue will be dealt with conclusively.
Lazima tuwe na viongozi wale wanawakilisha wale wanakuwa kwa hiyo kazi. Itachunguzwa, sinachunguzwa. Sasa simpatie serikali muda ichunguze.
The dramatic events are a reminder of the protests that followed the 2009 killing of 7 taxi drivers by AP officers from the Kawangware camp.
Staying with the police force, it would appear that police shot at an armed couple in a vehicle at City Park in Nairobi, leading to the death of a woman. Police say the vehicle in which the duo were in tried to speed off when they tried to find out who the occupants were. However, witnesses say the officers shot at the occupants after an altercation during the Sunday morning incident. Police officers implicated in the shooting have had their firearms withdrawn for ballistic examinations, and they have also been suspended, including one officer who was unarmed at the time. NTV's Steve Juma has the details.
A bullet-ridden car parked at Parklands police station was evidence of the brutality meted on the occupants. The shooting incident on Sunday morning at this location in City Park, Nairobi, has put the police on the spot for alleged misuse of firearm and causing death and harm to 2 civilians. 11 bullets were used in the incident, which workers at the park described as shocking. Witnesses at this park refused to talk to us on camera about the incident, saying there was an altercation between the occupant of this vehicle and the police before the shooting started. A police report on the incident indicates that the officers who responded knocked the car window, which was tinted, and that the vehicle tried to speed away suddenly. In the police report sent to Vigilance House, Administration Police Officer William Kipkorir Chirchir, attached to Makadara AP Post, is detailed as the officer who used his AK-47 rifle to shoot 4 times at the vehicle. His counterpart, Godfrey Kipngetich Kirui from the Kenya Police, attached to the Industrial Area Police Station, fired 7 rounds at the vehicle's occupants. 2 occupants were on board, half naked, and had suffered severe bullet wounds. They were identified as 41-year-old Janet Wambui Waiyaki and 26-year-old Bernard Chege. They were both rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, Janet was pronounced dead on arrival, and companion Bernard is now fighting for his life at Avenue Hospital. His mother told NTV that she would only speak about the incident once her son was out of danger. According to police report, all other police officers who were present during the incident have been disarmed and their rifles taken for ballistic examination. Nairobi Police Boss Joseph Oletito has said the officers approached the car with the intention of finding out if there were occupants, and if so, what their mission was. The recent spate of killings allegedly by police has raised question on the effectiveness of the service as far as human life is concerned. Steve Juma, NTV.
Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa has told off leaders in Tana River County using distribution of food to flood victims as a means to advance their political agenda. Former area governor Hussein Dado, who is also the current devolution chief administrative secretary, today denied claims that he has been using his position to undermine Governor Dado Godana in some areas within the county. In the meantime, the government is still asking people living in flood-prone areas to move to safer grounds, announcing that it is contemplating construction of 2 dams in the county to receive spillage from upstream dams. Peter Mongangi has more.
Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa today told Hola and Tana Delta in Tana River County, accompanied by former county boss Hussein Dado and current governor Dado Godana. The two have allegedly been accusing each other of politicizing relief food.
We have given food in every sub-county, more than 4,500 bags of rice. You see, I have distributed food in more than 32 counties. I have never had that accusation except at all. If somebody feels uncomfortable with my presence, that's my job.
I wouldn't go into that, but the former governor works with the minister. Na kama anafanya kule kwa wizara, sisi kama county tunategemea waziri kutuletea chakula.
Tunaomba wanasiasa tafadhali muache kazi hii ya ugavi wa chakula ifanyike in an organized manner through the county commissioner's offices and through the governor's office. So hatutaki watu waanze kuleta siasa o chakula kimepeanwa hapa na hawapeani huku.
Residents say such differences have caused unequal distribution of food and resources to those affected.
Sasa mambo wa kuja kutupatia ration mfuko 200 haitoshi. Mfuko 200 haitoshi. Sisi tunataka wa kutucompensate.
Huu ni msimu wa handshake. Na nataka niwahakikishie nimeona tayari handshake kati ya governor na the former governor. Hata governor amekuwa ofisini kwetu. Tumepanga mambo haya yote na tuko sawa.
The Tana and Athi Rivers Development Authority TARDA today donated a boat, food and other items for flood victims. TARDA says that once the flooding stops, it will partner with the private sector to rehabilitate the land and start rice farming in 5,000 acres in the Tana Delta. This will involve a 23-kilometer water pipe, which will benefit 14 villages.
We have identified some people, investors, who are going to lease that land already, so that they open up completely. And the starting point ni kufungua hiyo mfereji.
Despite the overflow of Masinga Dam upstream, water levels in River Tana down at the Delta are yet to increase. The government insists there is still danger of flooding.
And it's a matter of time, bado mvua inanyesha, na tuataka tutoe hii precaution ili tusingoje paka maji yafiki. Tuweze kuhamia pahala ambapo tujua tunaweza kuwa salama.
The county and national governments have promised to work together to restore the livelihoods of residents here in Tana Delta, both now and in the aftermath of the floods. Peter Mongangi, NTV, Tana Delta.
Let's get back to details I'd promised you earlier. NYS officers face arrest in 36 hours for the alleged theft of public money. During that time, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations will have completed initial investigations, after which arrests will begin. About 20 NYS officers recorded statements on Monday, with 20 more expected on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, in relation to the scam.
Detectives at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations are, however, on the trail of senior NYS and government officers suspected of masterminding theft at the youth service, estimated to be in billions. On Monday, the DCI started grilling NYS officials in the procurement chain. Most of those who faced detectives are from the accounting, finance and procurement departments and the store. Detectives led by the DCI boss, George Kinoti, claim that investigations into the NYS have revealed more rot, even as projects at the institution stall. The DCI and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions maintain that investigations into the scam that is making a joke of the 791 million shilling scandal the institution suffered in the early years of President Kenyatta's rule will be completed in the next 36 hours, after which arrests of those involved will begin. Kinoti says no one will be spared, from top-level managers to staff at the bottom. NTV has established that the number of suspects in the NYS scam are increasing, even as investigators narrow down on suspected individuals and companies. The Office of the DPP and the DCI have already frozen accounts of almost all companies involved in dubious deals that have left NYS a troubled institution. The investigators are targeting more. They have engaged a money trail gear. They say proceeds made from NYS deals that led to the loss of billions of shillings will be recaptured, and an application made in court for assets acquired out of the proceeds returned to the government. Their eyes are on cars, lands and other quantifiable assets that suspects may have procured out of money looted from the institution of vocational training. Investigations into the possible loss of close to 9 billion shillings at the National Youth Service is in an advanced stage, even as the DCI maintains that close to 30 people could be charged. The Office of the DPP is adamant that nothing will shift their focus from the finish line. Already, some individuals suspected to be involved in the NYS scam have moved to court to seek anticipatory bail to block impending arrests. Some of the companies that are under investigation over the possible loss of billions of shillings at the NYS have had previous controversial dealings with the outfit and have no internet footprint. While they deal in hundreds of millions of shillings, only one of the companies under investigation has a website, but still it does not list its management. The others, like Fastlink Suppliers Limited and Flagstone Merchants, the two firms that walked away with more than 1 billion shillings each in the latest NYS scam, remain largely anonymous. Enoch Sikolia, NTV, Nairobi.
And as that is happening, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has given all foreigners permitted to work in the country 2 months to register fresh with the Immigration Department or risk deportation. Matiang'i says the registration exercise, which he launched at Nyayo House today, will aid the investigation authorities in their efforts to crack down on those working in the country illegally. He claims the number working illegally in the country is much higher than the documented 34,000, as evidenced by the daily court arraignments of persons who come into the country on tourist visas and overstay. Last month, Matiang'i gave the Directorate of Criminal Investigation 60 days to crack down on aliens working in the country legally, accusing them of costing Kenyan jobs and the government taxes and of posing a security threat as well.
I want you to know this, my fellow Kenyans, why this is very serious and concerning to us. Every year, last year, this financial year, we are spending 360 million shillings to deport people who are in our country legally. 360 million to buy tickets and send the people away who are not supposed to be in our country. How many houses will you build for the police with 360 million? Many.
At that point, let's take our first break here on NTV Tonight. We'll be back with much more. Don't go too far. Thank you so much for staying with us. Residents living in flood-prone areas in Baringo have been asked to move to higher and safer ground. Baringo Women Representative Gladwell Cheriot told the locals to heed the weatherman's warning on looming floods expected in parts of the country. Speaking in Baringo South, where floods have caused widespread destruction of infrastructure as well as paralyzing learning in most schools, the women representative emphasized the need to move to safer ground as the heavy rains are expected and called upon residents there to be wary of flash floods expected to hit the area and to avoid loss of lives. The leader further called on the government to increase disaster funds to help rebuild the lives of residents adversely affected by the ongoing floods in Ngambo, Sintan and Loboy areas of Baringo South. The education, transport and tourism sectors are the worst hit by the rains that have been pounding the area for the past few months now.
My call for these people is that the people of Baringo South and other areas which are equally affected, that kindly, if they are able to move to areas that are a bit raised so that they can be safe.
Let's talk about a bit of politics now. And NASA leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto appear to be headed towards a major showdown, with both trading accusations on the nature and the meaning of the recent handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Their rivals have also joined in the fray, with the 2022 succession politics featuring heavily in the exchanges, as Seth Olale reports.
There's no relenting in the face-off between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Barely 24 hours after the two leaders revived the debate about the outcome of the 2017 general election, their followers have joined fray. A group of Orange Democratic Movement leaders are demanding that Deputy President William Ruto stop dragging the NASA leader in his 2022 presidential succession politics.
How the handshake wants to stop him from being president, and his whole trademark politics of lies, commotion, hate and division.
The legislators accuse the DP of blackmailing the opposition leader in a bid to persuade his supporters that Odinga is behind the challenges he faces in succeeding President Kenyatta in 2022. The opposition leaders, who accused the deputy president of holding the country hostage, asserted that they will continue with their push for constitutional reforms through a referendum.
He vehemently opposed the 2010 constitution on grounds that it had loopholes. Now, when we call for the fixing of the loopholes, he retorts that the constitution must not be changed. That hypocrisy is standing between him and the presidency.
But responding to the accusations, political leaders affiliated to William Ruto dismissed the allegations, maintaining that the NASA leader is using his unity pact with President Uhuru Kenyatta to scuttle the DP's chances of clinching the 2022 presidential polls.
Now we create a seat where he's going to fit, simply because he knows yata kukieta 2022 William atamushinda. Sasa nataka kupita Pakido, aende kusema tunataka create some positions of a prime minister, sisi nataka kuweka nini.
The pact between Odinga and Kenyatta, expressed in the handshake at Harambee House earlier this year, has sparked divisions within both NASA and the Jubilee Party. The fierce verbal confrontation between leaders allied to NASA leader Raila Odinga and those of Deputy President William Ruto come at a time when a 14-member Building Bridges Initiative team is expected to come with a detailed program that will guide President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga following their memorable handshake. Seth Olale, NTV, Upper Hill, Nairobi County.
Well, the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination of Government will continue to reduce the number of police officers seconded to guard top county and national government officials. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has defended the ongoing scaling down of bodyguards deployed to VIPs. Governors are the first casualties of his directive implemented by the Inspector General of Police, with the security detail reduced to 5. Daniel Mule has more on that.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i was speaking during the handover of the end-term report by the outgoing board of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, in Nairobi. He applauded the move by Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet to reduce the number of police officers guarding governors to a maximum of 5, which he says is in line with the law. Last week, Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko protested the move, claiming his life was in danger after his bodyguards were reduced to 3. Matiang'i has called upon politicians and other VIPs to support the move that will now be getting to phase 2, where senators, parastatal heads and other VIPs will be affected. Senators will be left with 1 bodyguard and an armed driver.
We have to rationalize, for example, as I've said several times before, the way we deploy our police resources in the country. A country of our size, with the needs that we have, cannot afford to do some of the things we do, which are sheer madness. There is no county government official anywhere in this country who needs 26 police officers to guard them. There is no one. Governor or whatever, you don't need 26 police officers to guard you. We can't move a police station to your office.
IPOA's report shows that Kenya has approximately 100,000 police officers who are supposed to guard the 45 million Kenyans, which means Kenya is within the United Nations acceptable police-civilian ratio, which should be 1 police officer for every 450 civilians. As of last year, data from Stockholm International Peace Research Institute indicated that the number of police officers in Kenya was 119,165 police officers, and exceeded the ratio of police to civilians to 1 police officer for every 380 civilians. That was attributed to the increased resource allocation to security personnel in the country for the last 5 years. Nonetheless, with some VIPs taking up as many as 20 police bodyguards, that reality remains a theory. According to a police service report released 2 years ago, 1 in every 7 officers is assigned to protect the elite. The IPOA inaugural board handed in their report to Matiang'i as they leave office after serving for 6 years. From the time of its establishment on June 2012 until December 2017, the authority has received 9,248 complaints, which have given rise to 60 cases before court and 4 cases and petitions finalized. Concern has been raised that the delay in recruiting a new board could affect investigations of various cases they are handling, bearing in mind the process could take up to 3 months from now. One of the prominent investigations undertaken by IPOA is one that resulted in the conviction of former Githurai police officer Titus Musila Elias Katitu, who was found guilty by the High Court of intentionally killing Kenneth Mwangi 6 years ago. Daniel Mule, NTV.
All right, let's take another short break. Dan Mwangi is coming up next with the business news.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangina. Local communities in the county of Turkana have expressed their dissatisfaction with the oil revenue sharing agreement and have accused their local leaders of hanging them out to dry. On Saturday, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced that a deal had been reached which would see the national government take 75% of the oil proceeds, the county government 20% and the local community sharing 5%. The community, however, says that 5% is not what they agreed on with their leaders.
Swali ni kwamba hii 5% na ile 10% yenye sisi tulikuwa tunapigania tukiwa community ya Turkana, mbona wao wakakubali kule bila hata kuja kutuelezea sisi namna hii 5% itakuwa equally distributed to the entire county so that itupatie sisi notion ya kusema kwamba hiyo 5% inatutoshea. Sisi hatukubaliani na hiyo hata.
Mimi nilikuwa nataka 10%, 30%. 20% kwa county government, 10% kwa community. Na Turkana mzima. Sio Lokichar peke yake.
Leaders from Kenya and Uganda are calling for fast tracking of the East African community integration in order to enhance trade and tourism across the regional borders. Our reporter Gabriel Kudaka attended the first cross-border tourism expo in Bungoma County and brings us the details.
It was a jig to showcase part of Uganda's cultural heritage. Their Kenyan counterparts also putting a sample of the cultural menu on the stage. But impediments to free cross-border trade between Kenya and Uganda are still a major concern.
And I've come here to emphasize that the East African community, the one which was revived, is people-based.
The second largest export market for Kenya after the US is Uganda. We don't have a choice as leaders of the county government of Bungoma and as leaders of Eastern Uganda that we must find a way of closer cooperation between ourselves and yourselves.
I'm advocating to see that there is a formidable policy that guides tour guides. We are looking for a way to develop a federation for tour guides within the region.
The exhibitors are calling for mapping of potential tourism attraction sites in East African countries for maximum revenue generation.
You find that what you find in Uganda is more what you find in Kenya, what you find in East Africa. So we are all having the same kind of platform we are operating on.
This is the first Kenya-Uganda cross-border tourism expo to be held in the country. Gabriel Kudaka, NTV.
Albin Sang has been appointed as the acting managing director at the National Cereals and Produce Board, replacing Newton Terer, who resigned last week. Over 50 staff have been suspended at NCPB pending investigations into the irregular sale of maize to its depots that was done at the expense of thousands of farmers.
The sale of maize imported from neighboring countries to the National Cereals and Produce Board's depots in parts of Western Kenya seems to have been the proverbial final straw that broke the camel's back as far as the tenure of Newton Terer as managing director at the board was concerned. Diligent farmers were finding themselves facing a harsh reality of revenue losses despite their hard work.
The situation where the union farmers who brought their maize to our silos, who brought their maize to our depots, have not been paid, while we have traders and merchants who brought huge consignments of maize and they have been paid.
In total, 67 staff of NCPB have been compelled to step aside for investigators to attempt to get to the bottom of the woes bedeviling the organization.
As a board, we have said that all the three regional managers, regional manager of Lake Western Region, regional manager of North Rift, the regional manager of South Rift, are all hereby suspended until full investigations are conducted.
The managers of depots at Eldoret, Moi's Bridge, Bungoma, Kisumu and Nakuru, as well as 59 other staff members, face the same fate. For many farmers, Inefficiencies at the NCPB depots, coupled with the collusion of some officials with rogue businessmen to make a kill from sale of illegal maize, has put them on the back foot.
And they bring their maize, and it takes us almost 6-7 months to pay them. While those who probably, either buy, or use other means, bring their maize, and they are paid within 7 days. As we speak now, we have got about 20 merchants and traders who have no farms, who have been fully paid, almost 80% paid. While I've got 3,800 farmers, smallholder farmers who have not been paid.
The government released 1 billion shillings last week towards the payment of dues to 3,200 farmers, and the principal secretary says that they will have received them by close of business on Tuesday. The ministry and the board have resolved to rename NCPB to Grain Corporation of Kenya and to implement recommendations to restructure the board done by Ernst & Young in a report 3 years ago. With the changes that have taken place at the top leadership of the National Cereals and Produce Board, the public now expects that going forward, operations will be smoother and with reduced influence from cartels. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Still on agriculture, and the Kenya Tea Development Agency has suffered a blow after the Kericho High Court declined an affidavit seeking to introduce new documents in a case where the county government had sued the agency. In a petition filed in 2014, Governor Paul Chepkwony had accused the agency of charging farmers extra monies for management services and urged the court to compel KTDA to refund 87 billion shillings to farmers.
In a hearing by a 3-judge bench at Kericho High Court on Monday, the Kenya Tea Development Agency was barred from introducing new documents into a case where the county government of Kericho had sued the agency in 2014, accusing it of exploiting tea farmers. In the petition, Governor Paul Chepkwony accused KTDA and other relevant bodies of charging farmers unjustifiable fees for management services, demanding that the agency be held accountable.
The direction of how the tea industry is being run will change completely after the conclusion of this case, so that we can have justice and benefits coming to the farmers.
Through its lawyer Martin Tebino, KTDA questioned the legality of Governor Chepkwony to file a petition, considering that he is the sitting governor.
It raised new issues which we were not well acquainted with before, and which would have been prejudicial to our case.
But in its submission, KTDA argued that its effort to seek an appeal cannot be faulted on grounds that it intends to use fresh documentation to challenge demands by the county government, which is asking the court to compel the agency to return a sum of 87 billion shillings to farmers in the Western Rift.
They have taken 17 months to lodge this appeal, and which time has caused suffering and pain to the farmers of Kericho, and indeed to all the stakeholders in the tea sector.
The parties will have to wait until 18th of September to know whether KTDA can be allowed to file an appeal on the matter. Kevin Mutai, NTV, in Kericho County.
Kenya's earnings from coffee dropped by 11% in the first 6 months of the year to 11.6 billion shillings compared to the 13 billion shillings earned in a similar period last season. Data from the Nairobi Coffee Exchange indicates that the dip in earnings is as a result of a drop in prices on the global market. This in turn affected Kenya's Arabica beans, which have been experiencing a 3-year low this season. The NCE also reports that the volumes of coffee traded within the same period also dropped by 6% due to several factors such as delays in delivery to the market as a result of heavy rains. American Security Agency will today start a week-long audit at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport ahead of the direct flights between Nairobi and the New York. The audit is set to determine whether Kenya has addressed security issues raised by the Transportation Security Administration officials as the country prepares to get the last point of departure status. The audit is critical as Kenya Airways plans to start direct flights to John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York on the 28th of October. Business myself, both done. Good night.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, Olive Restaurant has termed as fake the allegations that their staff chased out a lady for breastfeeding a baby in their premises. The farm's management has released CCTV footage, which it argues gives a true picture of the events of the day in question. The complaint by a lady known as Betty saw protests in the capital led by human rights activists last week.
15th May 2018. Protests against an alleged violation of a mother's right to breastfeed. The lady, Betty, claimed to have been kicked out of Olive Restaurant by a waitress for breastfeeding without covering up. This caused an uproar on social media, which then moved to the streets, and now management has come out with CCTV footage to show their side of the story.
Yes, you're denying she was not thrown out of the premises. She was not asked to breastfeed in the toilet. She was not thrown out of the premises. At the same time, she stayed here and ate her meal, finished and left.
While referring to the footage, the statement said about 25 minutes after Betty was served and began eating, she started feeding her baby. About 5 minutes on, a waiter gestured to her and they engaged in a chat for about 30 seconds, after which there was a moment of laughter. The statement continued to say that she then proceeded to finish her food. The footage also shows the waitress gesturing in a way that suggests that Betty should cover up as her baby suckled. The authenticity of the footage was also brought to question, but the management insists that it is legitimate. A previous statement by the farm was that the CCTV system had been compromised by rodents.
The CCTVs are in well good shape. So there's no matter of zilikuliwa na panya ama zilikuliwa na mende. Tunaomba msamaha kama hiyo kitu ilifanyika, lakini sisi management hatukuwa informed anything.
The eatery supervisor, on the day of the protests, offered a public apology, raising questions over why he did this if the farm claims that it did no wrong.
It was decided that let the lobby that's organizing the march for breastfeeding mothers carry on with its march. It would be premature and sort of antagonistic to appear to be fighting, to be pushing, to be defensive, so that once the lobby has had their time and they've presented their petition, then you can quietly come on board and now present our story without seeming to be to want to dampen or to diminish the issue of breastfeeding and the rights of the lobby that we're organizing.
The farm says that the bad press has cost its business as sales have dropped since the information on the incident came to public light. Helen Aura, NTV.
Well, students at Moi University School of Medicine will have to wait longer before resuming classes after lecturers vowed to continue with their strike until their demands are met. The Dons want the allowances paid before any lectures take place.
There is still no sense of relief for students pursuing medicine at the Moi University after their lecturers, who double as specialized doctors, claimed they were left out of a deal that saw lecturers call off the 78-day strike last week.
Despite the wider WASU lecturer strike being called off, the lecturers in the School of Medicine have not yet agreed to come back to work. And this is because their allowances have not been paid.
The Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union insists that the lecturers would only resume teaching after payment of all the benefits, including allowances set out in the 2017 to 2021 CBA.
The thing is that employers have sent wrong names. People who call themselves doctors. You know, once you get a PhD, you are a doctor, but you're not a medical doctor.
The Dons are further accusing the university management of presenting names of other people to benefit from the enhanced allowances, leaving out the genuine doctors. The government has allocated 800 million shillings to facilitate payment of their allowances. The money was meant to cover risk, call and clinical allowances, respectively.
Solidarity forever for the youth. All right, let's take a short break and make way for Brian Otwal with the latest in the sporting world.
Welcome to NTV Sport. My name is Brian Otual. Kenyan football has once again been caught up in ego wars as uncertainty looms over whether the Mashemeji Derby continues next weekend as earlier scheduled or be put on hold altogether. This after the two disagreed on whether the next weekend's match will be postponed as Harambee Stars are poised to play friendlies on Friday 25th and Monday 28th in preparation for the 2019 African Nations Cup qualifiers against Ghana. Football Kenya Federation FKF and the Kenya Premier League are once again at loggerheads, this time over next weekend's Kenyan Premier League round of 17 matches. FKF President Nick Mwendwa confirmed that the match pitting rivals AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia at the Bukungu Stadium in Kakamega has been postponed to allow the national team Harambee Stars play the two friendly matches against Swaziland and Equatorial Guinea on Friday and Monday.
We are moving to postpone any matches involving FC Leopards and Gor. The rest of the teams have 2 players, 1 player, they will continue to play. We will then find a solution after this window because we have to be ready for Ghana. I want to state that so that there's no ambiguity. I want to be very clear about it.
In a statement to newsrooms, Kenya Premier League declined the request to hold this weekend's fixtures, asking the federation to use the players that will be available. The league managers also stated that they have concluded arrangements for scheduled matchday 17 fixtures and that the club can voluntarily release their players and have the right to require them back to their clubs at any time. According to KPL Chief Executive Officer Jack Oguda, the two friendly games do not fall in the FIFA calendar and hence are under no obligation to host the fixtures. This as the National Executive Committee of the Mashemeji Derby hosts Ingwe also sent out a statement noting that they will not release their players as they have already made necessary arrangements and as such are also preparing for the match as well as the SportPesa Super Cup. The squad of 24 players called up on Saturday has 7 Gor Mahia players and 3 from AFC Leopards, while 3 more are on the standby list called up by coach Sebastian Minye as he begins preparations for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Ghana. The federation head is also against the use of Bukungu Stadium for the derby over security fears, giving Kasarani Stadium a thinly solution. Kasarani Stadium meanwhile remains closed for the next 1 month with the damaged pitch under refurbishment.
Once you get grass ready, you can play, although the overall stadium is not fully ready.
Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos remains the only other pitch available for the derby. Meanwhile, the Kenya Premier League continues and champions Gor Mahia still top standings despite a scare after a late equalizer that saved the unbeaten run. With 3 matches in hand, Kogalo lead with 31 points, 3 points adrift second-placed Ulinzi Stars who leapfrogged Mathare United to second place with a 2-0 win over Wazito FC. Mathare United's winless streak extended to 6 matches to drop to third ahead of AFC Leopards who thumped Thika United 2-0 to hand coach Rodolfo Zapata his first win in 5 games. Sofapaka complete the top 5. The middle table remain unchanged with the Tuskers Robert Matano registering his second consecutive loss. At the bottom, Nakumat leapfrogged Sony Sugar who now lie bottom on 11 points, while Nakumat are 17th on 14. Wazito FC, Zoo FC and Thika United separated by a point each, lie 14th, 15th and 16th respectively. Beg your pardon.
Second match, we drew with FC, now we won against Tusker.
We have to do something and they have to come up, those players.
That's not good enough. Not good enough for me, not good enough for Gagalo. It's 2-0 up again. You know, keep the ball. Even in the first half, we never kept the ball. We kept giving it away. And that's our problem. You know, we're too anxious to score. We don't keep possession.
And 64 teams from 5 tiers of the Kenyan football will battle out for top prize of 2 million shillings in prize money and a chance to represent the country in next season's CAF Confederation Cup in the 2018 SportPesa Shield tournament that kicks off on the 1st of June. The draw features 13 teams from the Premier League, 9 from the National Super League, 15 from Division 1, 10 from Division 2 and 17 from Branches League. 5 KPL clubs including Nakumat FC, Thika United, Mathare United, Chemelil Sugar and Zoo FC will not be participating in the tournament as they did not register. In a pick of the fixtures, title holders FC Leopards will kick off their defense against third-tier side Shabana FC, while Gor Mahia travel away to Mombasa side SS Assad. Ulinzi Stars face Trans Milan FC, while Bandari play Garissa side Berlin FC. Tusker FC face off with Taita Taveta All-Stars, Sofapaka Battle reunion, while Kakamega Homeboys play ASEC in a Kakamega derby.
We can see the improvements that have come into Kenyan football, and as Professor, we're very proud, and we'll definitely continue with our partnerships to ensure that this continues into the future.
We are changing our calendar. We are moving from January to December to May to August calendar. So this year is a transition season. We have requested the KPL to try and conclude its matches by end of October because CAF is also transitioning.
And Rainbow men and women teams from South Sudan will debut at this year's Amaco International Volleyball Championship